All right, so here's what we're doing today. We're going to take those expressions like we were just simplifying, and we're going to plug in numbers for them. But if I could just give you a huge piece of advice, don't plug the numbers in until you've made it its simplest form first. I think when people try to plug numbers in and then move things around, it doesn't go as well. It can happen, it can work. It's not wrong. I just see a lot more mistakes when it's done that way. So let me show you on this first one what I mean by that. It says, what is the value of 3s cubed t to the negative second for s equals 2 and t equals negative 3? Okay, now this is a negative number. This has a negative exponent. And if you try to plug a negative 3 in right now, it just gets more confusing to me anyway. You may disagree with me, and if you can prove to me that you can do it, plugging the number in right away, then go for it. I think what you should do first is rearrange this to its simplest form. What is the simpler form of 3s cubed t to the negative second?
3s cubed over t to the second.
Right, we're gonna drop that t down like that, okay? Once you have it simplified like that, now plugging numbers in makes it a little simpler. So I would go 3, s is 2 to the third over my t value. Can you tell me if I should be putting parentheses around the negative 3 here? Yes, you should, okay? You are squaring what t equals, and t equals negative 3. If you write it like this, and you plug this into your calculator, what's your calculator going to tell you that equals? This one. If you plug that in, negative 3 squared, your calculator is going to say negative 9. This does not equal negative 9. This equals positive 9, right? Because it's negative 3 times negative 3. So if you are a plug it into the calculator person, plug it in correctly, okay? Put the parentheses around the number. So simplify this. Can you tell me, is the 3 times 2 cubed or is the 2 cubed? Up top. Just the 2, okay? If you plug this into your calculator knows that. If you plug in 3 times 2 in parentheses to the third power, actually, I don't even think you need parentheses. If you just plug in 3 times 2 to the third power, your calculator will do it right on that. But if you don't love that, plug it in piece at a time. 2 cubed is 8, so 3 times 8. Negative 3 squared is what? A positive 9, okay? So if you plug that in, 3 times 8 is 24 over 9. Again, I don't need to see this as a step, okay? You can plug this in and then plug that in and lay it out like this. 24 ninths is not the simplest answer you could give me. What can you do with that? Divide everything by 3. So 8 over 3, and you may leave it as 8/3 if you want, or can anyone give me that as a mixed number? 2 2/2. Okay. I don't care which one of those you give me. I don't want 2.7. Okay, it would be 2.6 repeating. I could be convinced of 2.6 repeating because that is technically an exact answer. I don't want this. Okay, not 2.7. Don't round it. There's no need to round your answer. I want the exact answer. Any questions on that? Okay, so talk me through how I would do letter A here. What would I do first? Simplify by doing what? N to the negative 4th, W to the 0. What do you do with that? You're going to move N to the 4th to the bottom, make it positive. Okay, what's W to the 0? 1. Is that in the numerator or the denominator? It's a numerator, right? It's W to the 0 is 1. So it's 1 over N to the 4th. And now I would take the numbers and plug in what I know. So the W goes away. You don't even have to plug in a value for W, right? Because W to the 0 is 1. So just plug in 1 over negative 2 to the 4th power. Do you need to put the parentheses in if you're going to plug it into your calculator? Absolutely. If you plug in negative 2 to the 4th in your calculator without parentheses, it's going to tell you the answer is negative. How do you know this isn't negative? What is negative 2 to the 4th power? Like, what are you doing? You're multiplying negative 2 by itself 4 times, right? So a negative times a negative times a negative times a negative is a positive, okay? But again, you don't have to do that. Plug it into your calculator. In parentheses, negative 2 to the 4th, what do you get? 1 over 16. Okay. Okay, so you try to simplify letter B. N to the negative 1 over W squared, and then plug in the values that we have there and see what you get. And if you finish that one and you want to keep going, try as many of them as you can in the time that I give you. Might as well. Yes, sir. So if when you move it, ditch the negative. Right, when you move it down, that makes it positive. So into the positive first. So technically, if it was any other number, you would want to make sure you put parentheses around that, but it's power, so it is what it is, right? But this W is absolutely perfect. So where should it be? Yeah, it doesn't have a negative, then don't move it where it goes. So that stays down there. They'll both be on bottom. Because this is a positive right now, so it doesn't use it. The only other thing is negative. So because that one is negative, it's that right now, which means all you have top and is a 1. So nothing else is left. What are you looking for? What'd you get? It's kind of a goofy number. What'd you get?
Oh, no. I have a question.
Oh, what?
You don't have to put like the number in front.
Start your
It's
stopwatch.
not negative, right?
No. I mean, yeah, you can. It's not wrong to.
Okay.
Just stick it here, Micah. Anyone want to wager a what?
1 over negative 50.
1 over negative 50. Did anybody else get that? That negative can go wherever you want it to, right? You can put it on top, you can put it on bottom, or you can put it out in front. What you cannot do is put it on top and on bottom, right? So give it one spot for negative. I think what's tricky about this one is people assume that when you move 1, you move everything, okay? If I have n to the negative 1 on top, then I have n to the positive 1 on bottom. Where does W squared go? It stays. There's no negative with that one, so don't move that one. That's here, which means there's a 1 on top, okay? So this is 1 over, n is negative 2. What operation is happening between the n and the W? It's multiplication. So negative 2 times, your W is 5 squared. So square the 5, you get 25. 25 times negative 2 is a negative 50. So you can write it like that, or you may write it like that, or you may write it like this. They're all technically the same answer. Just don't put the negative with both of them. Okay. What do you do with C? What's n to the 0 power? It's 1. So this is 1 over W to the 6th, which means it's 1 over 5 to the 6th power. How do you figure out what 5 to the 6th is? Plug it into your calculator. Please don't try to go 5 times 5 times. That's a lot of work that you don't have to do. So type in 5 to the 6th. Do you all know where that caret key is? Are you talking to me? Oh, you have the number. What did you get?
15.
I got 15. Yeah, that's what I got. 1 over 15,625. Okay, now here's my question. What if you plugged the numbers in right away? What if you went -2 to the 0 power over 5 to the 6? Would you get the same answer? You would, right? Because anything to the 0 power is 1. So it's not wrong if you plug the numbers in before you simplify. I just think it's easier if you simplify first.
When I think my calculator is wrong because when I put the exponent and I press enter, it says Titanic.
Are you hitting 5? You should be putting this in. You should be putting 5. So the number 5, then this button, and then the number 6, and then enter.
That's what I'm doing. It says Titanic.
Okay. I'll come look at it right now. Try letter D. See what you get.
Wait, is that a... Is it negative 7
No, -2 to the 0 power. -2 increments, right? -2 is taken to the 0 power. So anything taken to the 0 is going to be positive or
Makes sense.
Okay, what did you get? Yeah, will you put your phone here? You got. Okay, hold on. Don't go to the bathroom yet. So this one, okay, if you rearrange first, do you have anything on top other than a 1? Sure about that? W to the negative first needs to get moved up as W to the first. What is W to the first? Just W, right? So you don't need the exponent. You have an n on bottom. The 1 essentially goes away because when you multiply by 1, it doesn't change anything. So then your W is 5. Your n is -2. So that is as simple as you need to make it. Technically, I guess you could call it a -2.5, but improper fraction is fine. Okay? Good on that? Okay. Now you can go if you want to. Okay, these last two are word problems, and really pretty much you just plug things into your calculator. It's more about understanding what's going on, okay? So example 6 here, it says a population of marine bacteria doubles every hour under controlled laboratory conditions. The number of bacteria is modeled by this expression, where H is the number of hours after a scientist measures the population size. Evaluate the expression if H is 0 and H is -3. What does that represent? Okay, now before we even solve the problem, you should be able to tell me what H equals 0 and H equals -3 represent. Any thoughts? What does it mean when H is 0? I mean, what does it mean in the problem? Nothing happens from the start, right? Like H0 being hour 0, that's like the start of what we're doing, okay? Because it said H is how many hours after they measure the population size. So H being 0 is when they measure the population size, right? H being 1 would be 1 hour after they measured the population. H being 15 would be 15 hours after they measured it. So what is H being -3?
3 hours before.
3 hours before they measure the sample, okay? So just consider that, because that's part of these word problems. I think it's probably the hardest part of the word problems is understanding what it all means. So take your time on those, read the words carefully, make sure it's making sense. When a number is a negative, it usually means the time before they did something, right? Negative 3 hours is 3 hours before. Okay, so if the expression is 1,000, it is doubling, that's the 2, to the 0 power. What is 1,000 times 2 to the 0? What's 2 to the 0? It's 1. So 1,000 times 1 is 1,000, okay? So what that means is at the time of measuring, the bacteria population is 1,000, right? You could say at hour 0. But I want to know what is hour 0. It's when they started this process, hour 0, okay? So h being negative 3 then, you're going 1,000 times 2 to the negative 3rd power, right? We're just dropping that negative 3 into our setup. You could, on this, rearrange 2 to the negative 3rd. If you did, it essentially would be 1,000 times what? What is 2 to the negative 3rd power? 2 to the 3rd is 8. You have to move it down, so 1 over 8. So it's essentially 1,000 times 1/8. Here's the deal, you guys. You don't have to do that on a problem like this when it's a real world situation. You literally can plug this into your calculator, but try it because you've not done negative exponents in your calculator maybe. Type in 1,000 times 2 caret negative 3 and see what you get. 125. So when you plug that in, you should be getting 125. That means 125 what?
People. Population.
Of what? What are we talking about?
Bacteria.
Bacteria, okay? So 125 bacteria are measured 3 hours before they start the experiment. Right? So this is 3 hours before hour 0. There were 125 bacteria. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is there anyone that doesn't quite get the negative hours things? Are we there? Let me know if you don't. I'm happy to re-explain. Okay, so example 7 says this. A population of insects triples every week. The number of insects is modeled by the expression. Okay, notice the tripling here. That's what the 3 is doing for us. W is the number of weeks after the population was measured. Evaluate for W equals 2, W equals 0, and W equals 1, and tell me what it means for each one of those, okay? So you're gonna chat with the people around you or do it on your own. See what you get here. I'll tell you what you should be getting here in just a minute, and then we'll be done. What'd you get for the negative 2? 600. Okay, so you have 5,400 times 3 to the negative 2nd power. If you plug that into your calculator, you could do this if you don't want to just plug it into your calculator. This would be 1 over 9, right? So 5,400 essentially divided by 9. But you get 600. Yes, sir. It's 3 separate things. They're saying, what would it be if W is negative 2? What would it be if W is 0? And what would it be if W is 1? So you're setting up 3 problems. The first one is when you plugged in a negative 2, there were 600 insects. What does that negative 2 mean? 2 weeks before measuring the population. Okay, so 600 insects that were measured 2 weeks before they measured the initial population. The second one then, now you're gonna plug in the 0. So 5,400 times 3 to the 0 power. What is 3 to the 0 power? What is anything to the 0 power? 1. So 5,400 times 1 is 5,400. So there are 5,400 insects at what point in this project? At 0 hour, when they measured the population, right? So 5,400 insects when they measured the population, right? This is hour 0 of a project. Whenever people talk about hour 0, that's the start, right? Hour 0. Oh, you guys, I don't know why this made me think of it, because you're starting something. Have any of you seen Gran Turismo? Gran Turismo? It is the driving game, but it's the movie about the guy who, you need to watch that if you've not seen it. It's so interesting. They take gamers who have like mastered, and this is a real story. This kid is real, like this happened. He's a gamer that's obsessed with the game Gran Turismo and like played it all the time, knew all the tracks inside and out. And Nissan decided to take all these gamers and have them compete in reality racing. And then they raced against professionals and they like win because they know the cars so well from playing the video game. It was so good. You should watch it. What? Oh no, it's so many races. It's like, it's not even a spoiler. It's not. Okay, first of all, when you watch a movie like that, everyone knows in the end they win, right? But there's a whole lot of ups and downs along the way. You got to watch it. It's really good. What'd you get for 3? For 1, sorry, when W's 1. 16,200. So it's that many insects when? After 1 week.
Wait, what's 0? When they measure like for some time when they start?
0 is the initial measure the population. So they're saying 2 weeks before they measured that population, it would have been 600 insects. A week after they measured, it should have been 16,200 insects. Yes. Yeah, I mean, the bell's going to ring pretty quick here.